Hello everyone, it's Graham from Lakeside, and today I thought I would do a video which will be on a questions and answers kind of video, because I think I owe that to you. I probably haven't explained myself very well when I've been creating this area, especially with the lift up section, and there's a few issues which I think need to go through so that you get fully understanding what I'm trying to end up with eventually. Now, what you've seen at the moment is not what it's going to be looking like when I finally finished it. And there's several things which I need to go through, not just with the lift up section but other things where I've had questions within the comments, and some of them keep coming up and repeating from other people. So I thought it'd be a good idea if I just sat down with you and just go through some of the things which I will be doing, which perhaps I haven't either explained well or I haven't got around to doing that part yet. So I've got a list here of the questions which I want to go through. So in no particular order, they're just as they've come up. First one is, will I be sealing the top of this, being MDF? Then yes, I will be sealing it, and I should probably use some kind of varnish, a clear varnish. I won't put down an earth colour all over or a grass colour. It would just be a clear coat of varnish on the top side and underneath too, because the underneath needs sealing just as much as the top. So edges, top, underneath, that will all be painted in some kind of varnish just to seal the MDF. So that's the first thing. But before I go ahead and do the sealing, not that kind of sealing, but the sealing put on here, I need to fill in the holes for where the countersunk is of the screws. I need to fill those in, sand them down, and then I can seal over the top of that. Which brings me on nicely to two other points. And somebody asked about how do I go about going over the joins, the sealing of the joins. What I did on the previous Lakeside was use masking tape, because the previous Lakeside was built basically the same, not in modules but with a framework and MDF on top, and so obviously I had joins, and all I did was use masking tape and literally just taped it over the joint like that. Two reasons for using it in this respect, and that is that if and when I have to dismantle this, it's easy enough just to scalpel through, obviously the Scenics or whatever's on at the time, static grass or whatever, but when I come down to the baseboard, it's just a case of scalpeling through the masking tape, and that should be enough to separate. That's one reason for using it, and the other thing is, of course, is that after sealing it, then that will be impervious to anything like water and PVA, so that it's not going to soak through into any MDF. So that's how I seal the joins. Get rid of that. So it's filling up the countersink of the holes where the screws have gone in, and then sealing after sanding it down first. The screws, I had a question about the screws, and that was to do with why didn't I get screws which self countersink. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't get them. I don't think I've actually ever heard them. The screws I've been using have always gone into the MDF and self countersunk, so I never even dreamt about looking for screws which have got serrations around that part there. I don't know if you can see that. Up on the countersunk section here, they've got serrations where it bites into what you do and countersink. Because the MDF is so soft, then they tend to generally go in anyway. The screws I've been using for all this, for building the framework and fitting the MDF on the top, have been these, which are number 4, which are these, number 4 40mm length, and I think these are number 4 as well, yeah, number 4 30mm length. I had to get 2 sizes because some of this framework went, bits of wood, some of the framework went that way and some of the framework went that way. So when it was that way I could use the 40 going in this way. When it was that way and I wanted to go in that way still, then I used the 30. So I hope that makes sense. So they're all those are Phillips type heads, or cross heads if some people prefer that method. And also, what did I use? I used a Bosch drill stroke screwdriver. And it's got a screwdriver setting, it's got a drill setting, and it's got an impact hammer setting, and it's got 2 speeds. So, you know, it kind of copes with everything I need up here anyway. And has done a fantastic job of screwing this lot together. So no complaints there. A couple of the screws are still proud, like I can see one here. That's just me being, not lazy, but I've forgotten to tighten it up a bit further to make it go down into the depth of the MDF a bit more. So I've just got to go over and check the screws to make sure that they're all below the top surface of the MDF, so that I can go over with a little bit of polyfiller or whatever I use to smooth it out. I think that's enough on screws. What else have I got? Right, I think the main part really is that section, which is the lift up section. I think that's probably where most of the comments are coming in from now. I've totally forgotten about the adjustable feet, so I'm not even going to go there on that. I'll concentrate on this bit now. So, I think the main question which kept coming up was about rails on the track work colliding when I lift the section up, rails colliding on the hinge side where it lifts up. If I had done the hinges so they were level with the level of the same height as the MDF here, they would have collided. The trick is that the hinges, or the centre pin of the hinge, must be higher than the top of the track. If the centre pin is higher than the top of the track, by default, when you lift it, it will always clear the 2 tracks. You won't get any collision between the rail which is being lifted and the rail which is static. So as long as the centre pin is higher, there won't be a problem. Somebody suggested, not somebody, a few people suggested to get rid of the hinges from the top, why not put the hinges on the bottom? Well, if you think about it, if you imagine that is the lift up section, at the moment I've got the hinges on the top here, so it does that. If I put the hinges on the bottom here, I really don't see how I can then lift that up. I can drop it down, not a problem, but I can't lift it up, can I? So the hinges have got to be, if I want to have a lift up section, the hinges have got to be at the top. If I have a drop down section, which I'm not, but if I do, the hinges go underneath. I decided I wanted a lift up section rather than a drop down section, purely because when it's lifted up and over, it's out of the way. If I have a drop down section, it's always going to be in the way as I walk past the entrance there. That was just my thoughts. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. Of course it isn't. Nothing is in this world. It's just a matter of preference, whether you prefer something to be lifted up or something to be dropped down. I decided that I wanted it to be lifting up. If you wish to have yours going downwards, absolutely fine. Again, no issues, is there? It's your choice. Your railway, your choice. That's the reason why the hinges have to be at the top on this particular instance, because I want a lift up section and not a lift down section. Okay, so that's that bit out of the way. The next query or question I got, and it's all to do with hinges and that lift up section, was I will have constant derailments because I have one edge which is at right angles and the other edge over there is at about 45 degrees, 50 degrees. And so because those tracks are on cut at an angle, no way in a million years apparently will those ever line up. Though I will always constantly be getting derailments because they won't line up. Well, the previous video I hoped would have shown and I'll use the phrase again, proof of concept. And that's a really, really important terminology to remember. Proof of concept, with the major player of the word being concept. Now, concept doesn't mean that's how it's going to end up. It's like a concept car. If you see the motor shows, invariably the major manufacturers will have a concept car. It's never ever going to be built. It's purely a concept showing what things could be included on future models, maybe a rough design of what a future model may look like, roughly, but they're called concept cars. Never in a million years will they be produced. But the ideas are there. That's really what it's all about. And that lift up section is a concept. So what you've seen up to date is not how it's actually going to end up. It's not going to be far off, but it's not going to end up totally like the way it is, with the main difference being at the hinge end. That end, where I have the adjustable feet turned upside down, and the clamps and the dowels, that's all going to stay as it is. But this end is where the hinges are, is where it's going to change. Now, I haven't mentioned anything about those hinges really. All I've said is that it's proof of concept. I will be using those same hinges, but not in that configuration. They were just laid there for me to find out whether my thinking up here would work. I've proved that it does work, because the centre of these pivots here, of these hinges, were higher than the track. So I didn't get any fouling on the rails when it opened up. So that's the proof of concept. Now, what I've got to do is lay some track properly. And when I do that, I'm going to have some Woodland Scenics, what do they call it? Woodland Scenics track bed foam. I haven't got any at the moment. It's on order and coming tomorrow, along with a whole host of other stuff. Once that arrives, I've then got a dimension for the thickness of the track bed, plus I'll have the thickness for the rail. That will give me then the overall height of the track, with the track and the underlay. Once I've got that dimension, I can then go back to these hinges and adjust them accordingly to give me the correct height, so that when I open it I don't get any fouling. If I kept them where they are now, I would foul. The tracks would foul, absolutely no doubt about that, they're too low. So what do? I've got two choices really. I can either pack these existing ones up with either plastic card or blocks of ply or whatever to give me the height of the hinge, the correct height of the hinge with the underlay and the track on top, so that I don't get any fouling. So I can do it that way, or I can take these hinges off, keep them in the same position, but fold them and do it so that the flat part of the hinge here is then like that, which means that I will have the hinges inside the framework on both sides. So in other words, I would rebate, chisel out and rebate this join going on here on both sides and mount the hinges so that they are like that rather than being flat. So all you will see will be the centre pin sort of going that way, the centre pin raised up enough to give me the clearance for the track itself plus the underlay. It will look neater and it will probably give me less room as regards having to worry about hiding the hinge up on the ceilings. I haven't mentioned any of this in previous videos, and I wasn't going to. Excuse me, but I think because of all the questions I've got, I thought it only fair that I should come back and explain to you what I'll be doing. Because I think that if I don't do this, then I'm going to get these questions continuously coming on. And to be honest with you, it's a pain to keep answering the same question with the same answer. I can understand why you're doing it, because you're not here, you're not inside my head knowing what I know in the future. You can't actually think about, oh, why has he done it like that? And it would be better if he did it like this. Well, believe me, I know what I'm doing up here for the future. I might not be saying it, but I'm not probably the brightest light bulb in the pack to look at, but believe me, I actually do know what I'm doing certainly as regards this. It's all figured out, I know what I'm doing, it will work, believe me. And at the end of the day, when I'm hopefully after the concept period that I actually physically do it, then it will work fine. Hopefully I've explained myself well enough that you understand the thought process in what I'm doing. It's like dry fitting something together before you actually finally glue it all together. You dry fit it, make sure it works. When it does, you take it apart and you glue it, knowing that when you put it back, it's going to fit. And it's exactly the same process, exactly the same. So that's the hinges sorted out, hopefully. Right, the electrics. So I'm going to have 4 tracks going across there. And again, I've not mentioned this before, there was no point at the time, but there's been a couple of questions asked. Will I have a cut-off whereby when this is lifted up, I'm not going to get any disasters of trains running off and hitting the floor? Yes, I will be doing that. What I will be doing is that the section of track prior, I don't know if you can see it, no you can't, but the section of track prior to the hinge and the section of track for about a foot and about a foot after where it lifts up, that will go dead, the middle will go dead, and that side will go dead for about a foot either way. So it gives the chance of a train to stop just prior to the edge. On the hinge side, all it's going to do is hit the flat, but I don't really want a train to hit the flat. I want that to be dead as well. The way I'm going to do that is with a micro switch. So when I lift the flap up here, as soon as I start lifting it, it will trigger the micro switch and it will make the power cut from a foot back either side, plus this section too. So that will all be done with one micro switch. So hopefully that allays any fears from anybody thinking, oh, what if you raise that and the train still go? It won't come off the track, believe me, it will just go dead. It won't affect anything else, it will just affect the bus wire, the power feed to the bus wire between that section. Everything else can still be running if it wants to. I don't want it to, because if I'm going out I don't want to leave it running with that up. So it doesn't matter whether it does cut off everything. But that's the process of it. Now I've just said that it will cut off the power from about a foot either side. There's no reason why I can't cut the power to everything, just like I have a master switch downstairs. There's no reason why, if I lift that up, I can't do it so that it cuts the power to all the track, so that everything stops. There's no reason why I can't do that either. And it's probably safer to do that. So, when I come to that stage, that's when I will decide on what method I want to do. So I think that's the electrics sorted out for that, as far as I know anyway. The trouble is, because I know what's going on up here, I'm kind of assuming that you do too, and that's wrong to do that. But it is all planned out, I've spent a lot of time planning, not doing anything up here as such, but planning the layouts, planning the room, planning the aircon, all sorts of things, the lighting, areas for videoing. I've taken all that into account, and it's not obvious at the moment that I've done that until I show you and you go, oh yeah, but what about so-and-so? Yeah, that comes later. It's very general. This is the way I work. I will do something and it will be, oh, well, have you done that? Well, you don't know what I'm thinking for in the future. And I haven't said anything about that. So that's probably why it doesn't make quite so much sense, because you don't know what I've thought about for the future. Right, is there anything else? I don't think so. Sealer, screws, hinges, tape, micro switch, dead sections. I think, to be honest, that covers most of the queries I was getting. One thing I must show you, I don't know if you can see it on camera. Yes, you can. Fire extinguisher. Very important. My friend up in Scotland, Jim Ewan, thank you, Jim, for all the gifts you've been showering me with over the last year. He sent me this fire extinguisher because he felt that, obviously, with all what I've got up here, Sod's Law says that if I didn't have one, something's going to go up in smoke. So he very, very kindly sent me this, and now that I've got the legs up and the baseboard's finished, I was looking around and I thought, what's the most central place that I can get to quickly to grab hold of the fire extinguisher? And here is absolutely ideal. I know that there's somebody now going to be saying, oh yeah, but you can run along here and you can knock it. Oh. Yeah, it's possibly that I could knock it, but I doubt it because I know the blooming thing's there. And if I knock it, that's pretty steady. I'm going to hurt my leg more than I'm going to do any damage to the fire extinguisher. I won't hurt the leg, I won't knock it, so rest assured, health and safety and all that, that's fine where it is. I could mount it on the wall, but I don't want to drill into the walls anymore. That's why I haven't mounted these modules to the wall, because when I take this down, I don't want any more repair. I've done all that and painted the walls. That's why it's here. So for me, because I know it's there, I should look out for it, and if I need it, God forbid, I hope I don't, but if I do, I know exactly where to get it to. So once again, Jim, thank you very much, mate. That's really, really appreciated and very thoughtful, because I wouldn't have thought of that. So that's it, folks. Hopefully I've covered most of the things which I think you'll need to know about and answered all your queries. It will work. By the time I've finished, as I say, I know what I've got lying ahead of me, I know what I should be doing. It might not appear it, but I do know what I'm doing, and it will work just fine. So my track is being delivered tomorrow along with the underlay, so I will be starting putting some track down, but not before I've sealed it first and rubbed it down and filled the holes. That's the next job I've got to do. So no doubt once track starts going down, I'm just going to get so many queries and questions. I know I am, and I'm dreading it, because I just know that, knowing what I know from the previous layout, why didn't you put a double slip there? Why have you got a crossover there? The crossover should be there and not there. And it just goes on and on and on. It's going to go down how I want it. It's as simple as that. And talking about simple, it's going to be a simple layout. So don't expect huge numbers of points and crossovers and double slips. There ain't going to be many. It's going to be a roundy thing with a few points, job done. I'm not going into the realms of what I did last time, of shall the TMD go here, or should it be up there, and should I have a crossover? No, forget it. Simple layout, very simple. The simpler it is, there's less things to go wrong. So when you start seeing the track going down, do not put a comment on going, well, you should have a double slip going across there, or that, yeah, it's facing the wrong way and it's not prototypical. Do you know what, I don't care. I really do not care. It's my layout, I'm going to have it the way I want, or the way I think I want it to be done. So, just bear that in mind when you start seeing a track, and if any comments come back up that, I'm actually going to delete them. I'm not even going to bother replying to them. I will just delete them. It's very simple. Right, okay, I think that's about it, and hopefully I've answered all your questions. So I will leave it there and say goodbye. So bye for now, and I will speak to you in due course. Bye.